Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. One of the best things that the WWE has added to the WWE Network is the old WWF Saturday Night's Main Event. This is the 3-disc set that came out back in 2008, giving the best matches over the whole series. But just this week, they put up the first 3 years of the show on there. So not only do you get the best matches along the way, but you get a lot of the other matches that you don't see on this set. And I watched my first episode tonight, and I was very impressed. It still holds up to date. You can tell that there are a few minor theme changes along the way, but that's not something that honestly I really complain about when I'm watching this. Saturday night's main event was something that took place on Saturday night. It took the place of Saturday Night Live once a month on NBC, which was the biggest network at its time. So this was huge. It shows you how much, appeal there really was on the WWF back in the day, that it was treated like a real sporting event. Something that, honestly, as a wrestling fan, I wish we had eyes on it, like today. I mean, there wasn't a huge amount of talk about, Raw moving from USA, but there was some talk about it moving to maybe Fox Sports 1, or moving to, there was even a little bit of a small discussion about them going to ESPN or Fox. It was very, very minor, but if it did get moved to one of those places, it would still be entertainment, but it would be looked at with more eyes. It was sort of a real sporting event, and we would get a little bit more credibility about what we were doing. As a kid, I used to have to sneak around in order to watch this show a lot. With the show starting at 11:30, the show that I watched tonight was from 1987, so I was 6 years old. Honestly, a few times my dad would tape this for me. A few of these times I would watch the tape, not letting him know that while he was at the bar, I was up watching this, because my dad was a single dad, and sometimes I had to get away for some stuff, and he would not be there. But I watched Saturday Night's Main Event, Episode 9, one of the best matches ever from the history of Saturday Night's Main Event. I started with the greatest, and I went to it. This is the match that anytime there's the steel cage match, I beg for them to try and redo this sort of ending. Hulk Hogan and Paul Orndorff in a steel cage was a really big deal back in the day, and for this to be on TV shows you how big Saturday Night's Main Event was, that they just really honestly gave away free pay-per-views on TV in order to try and get more eyes on the WWF. You can see that this is this was 1986 going into 1987, since this was in December, so this is before they went out and they gave us SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble. This was basically, they had WrestleMania, and they had a shitload of house shows, and that's how they built their business. They had their TV, which at the time was on cable and syndicated shows, which is just straight up jobber matches. So in order to see this was honestly a huge deal. Hogan and Orndorff was the first match. They gave you the main event first, and they sort of worked down the card to where it was Blackjack Mulligan against Jimmy Jack Funk in what they called the Battle of Texas, in a match that honestly really didn't matter. But it sort of gives it that big time feel to it, because you know that they only have an hour and a half block schedule on there, so you might as well, you get your bigger matches out of the way first, and you wind up down at the bottom, so that bottom match sort of feels like it's just filling the rest of the show out anyways, instead of trying, like with Raw these days, you're watching it, that they get to run over the show a little bit into 8 minutes after the hour. So if anything's going on in that match and it's not, before 3 minutes after, you're not believing any of the finishes. That's just the truth when you watch Raw these days, just because you know how it's going to go down in the main event. This one, had a big story behind it. Hulk Hogan and Paul Orndorff was a huge rivalry. When Orndorff came into the WWF, he was one of the first contenders to go after Hulk Hogan in the championship. Everybody knows about him teaming up with Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 1. Sometime around WrestleMania 2 is when Orndorff saw the light. He turned babyface. and he started actually teaming up with Hulk Hogan in a lot of matches, and Hulk Hogan and Paul Orndorff became close friends. Adrian Adonis, who comes up later in this review, started poking his head in and getting into Paul Orndorff's ear about how Hulk Hogan was thinking that he was a bigger star than Paul Orndorff. Hogan was thinking that basically he was the guy running the show, that basically there were two different tiers where, Hogan was up here, Orndorff was down here, and then Hogan kept blowing him off. Hogan kept stealing the spotlight. A lot of things when you watch Hulk Hogan matches from back in the day, honestly, is he gets away with a lot of stuff. It was almost like Hulk Hogan was a heel, but the fans cheered him just because he got away with everything. He cheated in his matches. He beat on women. He stole Macho Man's girl. There's a lot of things when you look at things. He used to just openly punch Sherry Martel in the face, and we popped for it because she was Sherry Martel and she was getting what she was asking for. What happened was Paul Orndorff tried to call Hulk Hogan on a television show as the thing was going on, and when the person picked up the phone, they told Paul Orndorff that Hulk Hogan was too busy to get on the phone, which got into Paul Orndorff's head that maybe that Adonis was right about what was going on. Basically, they had a tag team match where Hogan and Orndorff were in the match, and basically it was a lot like the Rockers breakup, where Orndorff worked the whole match while Hulk Hogan had to stand on the outside. And then in the next match, where they wrestled against, when did the actual breakup happen? Oh, it was a big match. I can't remember what match. I can't remember who they were wrestling at this time. But when they did bump into each other, Hogan and Orndorff really had some heat because Hogan felt like Orndorff was pushing him to the back and wouldn't let him in that tag match. So that that was the breakup, which led to Paul Orndorff going back and getting managed by Bobby Heenan again, which set up this steel cage match where basically they fought. And as they climbed up to the top of the cage, and they were going down the cage at the same time, one on one side of the ring, one on the other, on two separate sides where the camera couldn't pick them up at the same time. Hogan and Orndorff both fell to the floor at the same time. You had Danny Davis, the heel referee, was over there with Orndorff, while Morella was on the other side. But Hogan, both referees were saying that there was that their guy was the winner, which led to Danny Davis attacking Morella. Because of that, Hulk Hogan attacked Danny Davis. One thing led to another, and they had to get back into the ring and restart this matchup. Hogan got the win in this match, which led to a protest by Bobby Heenan, where Bobby Heenan said he was going to take the tape of this footage, and he was going to take it to Jack Tunney, and he guaranteed that within a month, Paul Orndorff was going to be granted the WWF Championship because he would have fallen the winner. Of course, you have two of the best announcers in the game. You have Vince McMahon, and you have Jesse the Body Ventura, one of the best announce teams of all time. As they're out there, they're started going over the footage, and because of the editing, because the show wasn't live, Vince was able to put like a split screen down with the time across the top to match to make sure that the tapes were going at the same time, and both feet hit the floor. So many